Meanwhile, in the stables beneath Meduseld's golden hall, someone has to muck the stalls and measure the oats, even when legends are being forged in distant lands. Welcome, friend. You've wandered into another quiet corner of Middle-earth tonight. We're stepping into the worn boots of a stable boy in Edorus, the golden hall of Rohan's kings, where tending to horses becomes a meditation, and where the most legendary kingdom of horse lords reveals itself through the most ordinary of labour. Here, among the wooden stalls and hay bales, you'll discover that even in a land of heroes and great deeds, someone still needs to brush the horses and repair the tack, regardless of what grand events unfold beyond the stable doors. So before you settle in for this day's work with me, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, so we can keep bringing you more tales from the ordinary side of extraordinary places. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight. It's always good to know who's keeping me company during these quiet hours of work. Now get comfortable, let the peaceful rhythm of stable routine surround you, and allow the small steady moments of a stable boy's day in Rohan to guide you gently toward rest. The first grey light of dawn finds you already awake, lying on your straw-filled pallet in the small room above the tack storage. The air is cool but not cold. It's late spring in Rohan, and the harsh winter has finally released its grip on the Riddermark. Through the small window near your bed, you can see the sky shifting from deep purple to pale blue, stars fading one by one as morning approaches. You've been a stable boy in the royal stables of Edorus for nearly 4 years now, ever since your uncle brought you here from your family's small farmstead near Aldburg. The work is hard but honest, and there's a deep satisfaction in caring for the finest horses in all of Rohan. These are the mounts of the king's riders, descendants of Felaroth himself, horses whose lineage goes back generations, whose names are recorded in the stable's great book. The wooden floorboards are smooth under your bare feet as you rise from the pallet, worn by decades of stable boys who lived in this room before you. The wood is old oak, dark with age and oil from countless hands and feet, and it creaks in familiar places as you move about the small space. You know exactly which boards announce your movements and which stay silent. Your clothing hangs on pegs driven into the wall, practical garments made from wool and linen, dyed in the earth tones that Rohirrim favour. Brown breeches, a tunic of undyed wool, and over it a sleeveless leather jerkin that protects your clothes from the worst of stable work. The leather is scarred and stained from years of use, but it's been mended carefully and remains serviceable. You dress efficiently, your hands moving through the routine they've followed every morning for years. The boots are the most important piece of a stable hand's equipment, and yours are solid work boots made by the cobbler in Edorus's lower town. They're tall enough to protect your legs from wayward hooves, thick enough to withstand constant moisture and muck, and broken in enough to be comfortable for the long hours of standing and walking that stable work requires. You pull them on and lace them with practiced efficiency, making sure the fit is snug but not tight. The wash basin sits on a small stand near the window, and you pour water from the pitcher into it, water you drew from the well last night before retiring. The water is cold, shockingly so against your face, but it drives away the last remnants of sleep and brings you fully alert. You splash it over your face and hands, washing away the night's rest, preparing for the day's work. There's a small mirror above the basin, cloudy and spotted with age, but adequate for checking that your hair is reasonably tidy. You run your fingers through it, pushing it back from your face, and note that it's getting long enough to need cutting soon. Perhaps next market day, you'll visit the barber in town. For now, it's fine. The stairs down from your room are narrow and steep, each step worn in the middle from countless trips up and down. The wooden railing is smooth as silk from generations of hands sliding along it, and you use it now as you descend into the main stable area. The stairs emerge directly into the tack room, a large space lined with saddles, bridles, blankets, and all the equipment necessary for maintaining a stable of fine horses. The tack room smells of leather and oil, wood and metal, with underlying notes of the soaps and waxes used to maintain equipment. It's a pleasant smell, one that you've come to associate with competence and order. Everything in the tack room has its place. Saddles arranged on wooden stands along one wall, bridles hanging from pegs arranged by size and use, blankets folded neatly on shelves, grooming supplies organised in wooden boxes. The early morning light filtering through the tack room's windows is pale and cool, not yet strong enough to warm the space. You light the oil lamp that hangs near the door, adjusting the wick until it provides steady illumination without smoking. The lamp will stay lit until the sun is high enough to make it unnecessary, probably another hour or so. From the tack room, you step into the main stable corridor, and immediately the sounds of horses greet you. Soft nickers, the rustle of straw as bodies shift, the occasional stamp of a hoof against packed earth. The horses know the morning routine, as well as you do. They're expecting their breakfast soon, and some of them are already anticipating it with gentle calls of greeting or impatience. The stable is a long building with stalls on both sides of a central corridor wide enough to accommodate a hay wagon. The structure is solidly built from timber and stone, with a high roof that allows for good air circulation while still providing shelter from Rohan's sometimes harsh weather. The stalls are generous in size, befitting the quality of horses they house, each one large enough for a horse to move comfortably, turn around and lie down to rest. There are 32 stalls in total, though not all are currently occupied. This is the King's Stable, housing the personal mounts of the royal family, the horses of high-ranking riders, and a selection of the finest breeding stock in Rohan. Each horse here has a name, a lineage, and a history. You know them all, their personalities, their quirks, their preferences for food and grooming. The first task of every morning is the same, checking on each horse to ensure all are healthy and uninjured. You walk the length of the stable slowly, looking into each occupied stall, making mental notes. The routine is comforting in its predictability, a ritual that grounds the day before the varied work begins. Stall 1 houses Windfoot, a grey mare of exceptional speed and stamina, the personal mount of one of the king's marshals. She's standing in her stall, head turned toward you as you approach, ears forward in friendly greeting. Her eyes are bright and clear, her coat shows no signs of distress or injury, and she's already picked through most of her hay from last night. All is well with Windfoot. Stall 2, Swift Mane, a bay gelding known for his steady temperament and endurance. He's lying down in his straw, a sign that he feels secure and comfortable. As you pause at his stall door, he lifts his head and regards you calmly before lowering it again to rest. Swift Mane is fine. Stall 3, Starfire, a chestnut mare with a white blaze, spirited but trainable. She's pacing slightly in her stall, eager for breakfast. This is normal behaviour for Starfire. She's always been an enthusiastic eater. You make a mental note that she'll be fed soon, which will settle her. You continue down the line, checking each horse systematically. Most are standing quietly, some are still resting, a few are showing signs of morning hunger, but all appear healthy, all seem comfortable, and there are no obvious problems that would require immediate attention from the horsemaster or the stable's healer. The checking takes perhaps 15 minutes, and by the time you've finished, the sky visible through the stable's high windows has brightened noticeably. Dawn proper is approaching, and with it comes the beginning of the morning feeding routine, one of the most important tasks in a stable boy's day. The feed room is located at the far end of the stable, a separate chamber with thick walls and a heavy door that keeps out moisture and prevents horses from breaking in to steal grain. You unlock the door with the key that hangs on a leather thong around your neck, a key you're responsible for guarding carefully, as the feed stores represent considerable value. Inside, the feed room is organised with the same meticulous care that characterises everything in the royal stables. Large wooden bins hold different types of grain, oats primarily, which are the staple of a working horse's diet, but also barley for variety and condition, and special mashes for horses that need extra nutrition or are recovering from illness. Smaller containers hold supplements, flaxseed for coat condition, dried herbs for various health benefits, salt blocks for mineral supplementation. The bins are labelled clearly, and there's a slate board on the wall with feeding instructions for each horse. Every animal has different needs based on their age, work level, and individual metabolism. Some get more grain, some less. A few require special additions to their feed. The feeding schedule is precise, developed over years of experience by the stable's horsemaster, and you follow it exactly. You begin measuring out portions using the wooden scoops that hang beside each bin. The oats make a pleasant rustling sound as you scoop them into the leather bucket you use for carrying feed. Each horse gets a specific amount. Windfoot gets 3 scoops, Swiftmane gets 2.5, Starfire gets 3.25 because she's in heavy training. The measuring is important. Too little grain and a horse won't have the energy for the work demanded of them. Too much and they can develop digestive problems or become overly spirited and difficult to handle. The balance is crucial, and you've learned to measure by eye as well as by scoop, knowing exactly what each portion should look like in the bucket. As you measure, you make mental calculations about the feed stores. The oat bin is perhaps 3/4 full, which means it will last another week before needing to be refilled from the main grain storage in the lower town. The barley is half full. The special mash supplies are running low and should be mentioned to the horsemaster. You make a note to tell him when he arrives later this morning. With the first bucket filled with the appropriate portions for the first 4 horses, you carry it back into the main stable corridor. The bucket is heavy. Grain in quantity has considerable weight, but you've been carrying such buckets for 4 years, and your arms and shoulders have developed the strength necessary for the work. You start with Windfoot, pouring her measured portion into the wooden feed box mounted on the wall of her stall. She immediately moves to it and begins eating with obvious pleasure, the sound of her munching filling the quiet stable. There's something deeply satisfying about feeding hungry animals, a primal fulfillment of a basic need that crosses all boundaries of species. Swiftmane receives his portion next, and he stands up from his resting position to eat, shaking the straw from his coat before moving to his feed box. The routine continues. Starfire, then Meadowlark, then back to the feed room to prepare the next batch of portions. The feeding process takes nearly an hour, as you must not only measure and deliver each horse's grain, but also take the time to observe each animal as they eat. Sometimes problems reveal themselves during feeding time. A horse that's usually enthusiastic about food, but shows little interest, might be developing an illness. A horse that eats too quickly might choke or develop colic. You watch each one carefully, looking for any deviation from their normal eating behaviour. All seems well this morning. Every horse eats their portion with good appetite, and there are no signs of digestive distress or unusual behaviour. This is a good start to the day. Healthy horses eating normally are the foundation of everything else that happens in a stable. While the horses eat their grain, you begin the next task, providing fresh water. The stable has a sophisticated water system, a series of troughs connected to cisterns that collect rainwater and are supplemented by water carried from the town wells. Each stall has its own trough, and part of the morning routine is ensuring that all troughs are full of clean, fresh water. You start at the far end of the stable with a large leather bucket designed for carrying water. There's a pump at one end of the stable corridor connected to one of the cisterns, and you work the pump handle with steady rhythm, filling your bucket with cold, clear water. The pump makes a rhythmic squeaking sound, metal on metal, and the water gushes out in spurts timed with your pumping. The water is cold enough to make your fingers ache slightly as you carry the bucket to the first stall. You check the level of Windfoot's trough. She's drunk about half of yesterday's water, and you top it up, pouring carefully so as not to splash. The water runs into the trough with a pleasant gurgling sound, and Windfoot pauses in her grain eating to take a long drink, her muzzle creating ripples in the fresh water. This process repeats for each stool. Check the trough, pump fresh water, carry it to the stool, top up the trough. Your arms grow heavy from the repeated trips carrying the full bucket, but the work is meditative in its repetition. Pump, carry, pour, pump, carry, pour. The rhythm is steady and unvarying, and your mind can wander while your body performs the familiar movements. You think about the day ahead. After feeding and watering is complete, you'll need to begin mucking out the stalls, removing soiled straw and manure, replacing it with fresh bedding. That's perhaps the least glamorous part of stable work, but it's absolutely essential. Clean stalls prevent disease, keep horses comfortable, and maintain the standards expected in the royal stables of Edorus. After mucking, there will be grooming, brushing out coats, picking hooves, checking for any injuries or problems that weren't visible during the morning check. Then tack maintenance, exercising horses that need work, and whatever other tasks the horsemaster assigns when he makes his morning rounds. The water carrying takes another half hour, and by the time you finish, the sun has risen properly above the horizon. Golden morning light streams through the stable's high windows, illuminating dust motes that drift lazily in the air. The temperature is rising slightly, though it will be hours before the day grows warm. The horses have all finished their grain and are now either drinking water, picking at the hay in their stalls, or simply standing quietly in the peaceful morning atmosphere. The stable is at its most tranquil at this hour. Horses fed and content, work begun but not yet demanding, the day stretching out ahead with predictable structure and routine. You take a moment to simply stand in the corridor, breathing in the familiar smells of the stable, horses and hay and leather, wood and water and stone. This is where you belong, doing work that matters, caring for animals that are valued beyond price by the horse lords of Rohan. But the moment of contemplation is brief. There's work to do, and the day won't complete itself. Time to begin the next task, mucking out the stalls. The tools for mucking out stalls are stored in a small alcove near the stable's main entrance, a collection of pitchforks, rakes, shovels, and the sturdy four-wheeled cart used for hauling away soiled bedding and manure. You select your preferred pitchfork, one with a handle worn smooth by your hand specifically, and wheel the cart to the first stall that needs cleaning. Mucking out is hard physical labour, but like most hard physical labour, it becomes almost meditative when you've done it thousands of times. The key is to develop an efficient system and then follow it consistently, letting your body perform the movements while your mind rests in the rhythm of work. You start with Windfoot's stall. She's finished eating and is standing calmly in the corner, and you enter her space with confident familiarity. Windfoot knows the routine. She'll stay out of your way while you work, and you'll be careful not to startle or crowd her. It's a partnership of sorts, a mutual understanding between human and horse. The stall floor is covered with straw bedding, perhaps 4 inches deep when fresh. After a night with a horse in residence, parts of the bedding are trampled and compressed. Some areas are soiled with manure, and a few spots are damp from urine. Your job is to remove all the contaminated bedding while salvaging as much clean straw as possible. You begin with the pitchfork, starting in one corner and working systematically across the stall. The pitchfork's tines slide under the soiled straw easily, and you lift and toss the contaminated material into the cart outside the stall. The motion is practiced. Slide the fork under the bedding, lift with your legs rather than your back, twist your torso and toss the soiled straw into the cart. Repeat. Slide, lift, twist, toss. The manure itself is easy to spot. Round balls of processed hay and grain. Dark and relatively dry and healthy. Horses. You collect it efficiently, forking it into the carts with the soiled bedding. Good manure is actually valuable. The stable sells its horse manure to farmers and gardeners who use it to enrich their soil. Nothing in a well-run stable goes to waste. The wet spots where horses have urinated require more attention. These areas need to be cleared completely, removing all contaminated straw down to the packed earth floor. You use the fork to scrape away every bit of damp bedding, then use a shovel to scoop up any remaining material. The wet straw goes into a separate corner of the cart. It can't be salvaged and must be completely removed. As you work, you're also inspecting the stall itself. Is the packed earth floor level, or has it developed depressions that might collect moisture? Are the wooden walls intact, or do any boards need replacement? Is the feed box clean, or does it need scrubbing? You make mental notes. Windfoot stall is in good condition, floor level, walls solid, feed box just needs a quick wipe down with a cloth. The physical exertion of mucking begins to warm your muscles, driving away the last coolness of the morning. You develop a light sweat despite the mild temperature, and you fall into the steady working rhythm that makes the labour pass more quickly. Your breathing synchronizes with your movements. Inhale as you bend and lift, exhale as you twist and toss. After removing all the soiled bedding, you use a stiff bristled broom to sweep the exposed floor, gathering any remaining small bits of debris. The sweeping is thorough. A clean foundation is essential before adding fresh bedding. The small pile of sweepings goes into the cart with everything else. Now comes the part that transforms the stall from merely clean to properly bedded, adding fresh straw. You wheel the cart back to the storage area and exchange it for a different cart. This one filled with clean golden straw that smells sweet and fresh. The straw comes from local farmers, purchased in large bales and stored in the loft above the stable. You carry armfuls of straw into Windfoot's stall, spreading it evenly across the floor. The goal is a layer about 4 to 5 inches deep, enough to provide cushioning and absorbency, but not so much that it becomes wasteful or difficult for the horse to move through. You fluff the straw with the pitchfork, creating a loose, airy bed that will be comfortable for lying down. The process takes perhaps 15 minutes for each stall, and you work methodically from one end of the stable to the other. Cart out the soiled bedding, sweep the floor, cart in fresh straw, fluff and arrange, then move to the next stall and repeat. Some stalls are messier than others. Young horses tend to be less tidy about where they eliminate, while experienced, well-trained horses often use specific areas of their stall, making cleanup easier. Starfire, for instance, is remarkably neat, always using the same back corner of her stall. Meadowlark, on the other hand, seems to distribute her manure randomly and with enthusiasm. You adjust your approach to each horse's habits. The filled cart of soiled bedding must be emptied regularly, so periodically you wheel it out of the stable to the manure heap at the edge of the stable yard. The heap is large and managed carefully. The stable produces a considerable amount of waste daily, and it must be organised properly to compost effectively before being sold or distributed. You push the cart up a sloped wooden ramp to the top of the manure heap and tip the cart, letting the soiled straw and manure tumble down onto the pile. Someone, probably you, later in the week, will need to turn and organise the heap, but for now, simply adding to it is sufficient. The cart emptied, you wheel it back to continue the mucking. The work continues steadily. The morning advances, the sunlight streaming through the windows grows stronger and warmer, and you move from stall to stall in unvarying routine. There's something satisfying about the visible progress. Each cleaned and freshly bedded stall represents completed work, tangible evidence of your labour. By the time you reach the final stall, several hours have passed and you're properly tired in the way that good physical work makes you tired. Your back aches slightly from the repeated bending and lifting. Your arms are heavy and you're ready for a break, but the stalls are clean, the horses are comfortable on fresh bedding, and the morning's primary tasks are complete. You return the tools to their storage alcove, hanging the pitchfork on its designated peg, parking the carts in their designated spots. Everything has its place, and putting things away properly is just as important as the work itself. A well-organised stable is an efficient stable. As you're finishing, the horsemaster arrives for his morning inspection. His name is Jomund, a man of perhaps 50 years who's been caring for horses since before you were born. He's weathered and stern-looking, but his eyes are kind and he treats both horses and stable hands fairly. "Good morning," he says, his voice carrying the slight roughness of someone who spent a lifetime calling commands across windy fields. "How are the horses?" "All well, master," you report. "They ate normally, no signs of illness or injury. Windfoot was a bit eager for her grain, but that's usual for her. Stalls are mucked and fresh-bedded." Yeoman nods, walking slowly down the stable corridor, looking into each stall with the practiced eye of an expert. He pauses at several stalls, observing horses carefully, but he seems satisfied with what he sees. "Good work. After your breakfast, I want you to start grooming the marshal's horses. There's a patrol riding out at midday, and they'll need their mounts ready." "Yes, master," you reply. "Take your breakfast break now. You've been working since dawn." It's not quite a command, but Omund has firm opinions about stable hands maintaining their own health so they can do their work properly. "Thank you, master." The stable has a small common room attached to the main building, a space where the stable hands take their meals and rest during breaks. It's a simple room. Wooden table and benches, a hearth for warmth in winter, shelves holding a few dishes and cups, and small high windows that let in light. 2 other stable boys work in the king's stables alongside you. Aldrich, who's perhaps 2 years older than you, and who mostly works with the breeding stock in the pastures south of Edorus, and young Hafok, barely 13, who performs simple tasks and is learning the trade. They're both already in the common room when you enter, sitting at the table with their breakfast. "Morning," Aldrich says around a mouthful of bread. "Rough night with the horses?" "No, all quiet," you reply, moving to the shelf where you keep your own provisions. "Just the usual morning work. You?" "One of the mares in the south pasture is close to foaling. I was out there twice during the night checking on her. I think today might be the day." Aldrich's voice carries a mix of tiredness and excitement. Foaling season is always significant, especially in Rohan, where horses are valued above almost all other possessions. Young Hafok is eating silently, his attention mostly focused on his food. He's shy still, new enough to the work that he mostly observes and learns rather than participating in the casual conversation of more experienced hands. Your breakfast is simple but adequate. Bread baked yesterday in Edorus's large community ovens, cheese from the dairy that supplies the royal household, and a couple of early apples from last autumn's harvest, kept in the cool storage. You pour yourself water from the clay pitcher on the table and sit down to eat. The bread is dense and filling, the kind that sustains hard-working men through long days of physical labour. You chew it slowly, taking time to actually rest rather than rushing through your break. The cheese is sharp and flavourful, pairing well with the bread. The apples are slightly wrinkled from months in storage, but still crisp enough, sweet enough, refreshing in their slight tartness. "The marshal is assembling a patrol," Aldrich asks, returning to the conversation. "Yes, midday departure. I'm to groom their horses this morning." "Large patrol or small?" "Didn't say. I'll know when I see how many horses need preparation." The conversation is comfortable and unforced, the kind that happens between people who work together regularly, but don't necessarily socialise beyond work hours. Aldrich is friendly enough, but he's focused on his own responsibilities with the breeding stock. You respect that. Everyone has their own work, their own concerns. Through the common room's windows, you can see part of the stable yard, a large open area between the stables and the rest of the royal compound. The yard is surfaced with packed earth, hard from countless horses and carts and feet traversing it over the years. A few chickens scratch at the ground near the stable's entrance, looking for scattered grain or insects. Someone's dog, probably belonging to one of the guardsmen, trots across the yard on some errand of its own. Beyond the stable yard, you can see the lower slopes of the hill upon which Meduseld stands. The Golden Hall itself is not visible from here. You'd need to walk further into the compound to see it properly. but its presence is always felt. You're at the heart of Rohan's power, even if your work keeps you in the humble structures that serve the greater glory above. The meal takes perhaps 20 minutes, and you use the time to let your muscles rest, to rehydrate with several cups of water, to mentally prepare for the next phase of work. Grooming horses is less physically demanding than mucking stools, but requires more attention to detail and care. Each horse must be thoroughly brushed, their hooves picked clean, their manes and tails combed out. For horses preparing for a patrol, you must also check all their tack to ensure everything is in proper working order. I should get back to it, you say, standing and gathering your few dishes. There's a wash bucket by the door, and you rinse your cup and plate, leaving them to drain. The patrol horses won't groom themselves. That mare better foal before evening, Aldrich mutters. I don't want another night of checking every few hours. Good luck with that, you say, meaning it. Foaling can be unpredictable, and a mare that's close but not quite ready can keep everyone on edge for days. You step back out into the stable yard, and the sun is properly warm now. It's going to be a pleasant day, not too hot, not too cool, just the kind of perfect spring weather that makes working outdoors a pleasure rather than a challenge. The slight breeze carries the scent of new grass from the fields beyond the town, mixing with the familiar stable smells. Back in the main stable, the horses are settled into their post-breakfast routine. Some are dozing, standing with hind legs relaxed, heads lowered. Others are nibbling at their hay. A few watch you with mild interest as you pass their stalls, and you make small greeting sounds to them, the kind of wordless acknowledgements that horses seem to appreciate. The grooming supplies are kept in the tack room, organised in wooden boxes built specifically for the purpose. You gather what you'll need: brushes of various types, soft brushes for faces and sensitive areas, stiffer brushes for bodies, special brushes for manes and tails, hoof picks, combs, cloths for polishing, and a bucket to carry everything. The marshal's primary horse is a magnificent stallion named Galmod, and you begin with him. He's housed in one of the larger stalls in the middle of the stable, and he's well accustomed to being groomed and prepared for service. As you approach with your bucket of supplies, he turns his head towards you and makes a soft sound of greeting. Not quite a nicker, more like a low rumble of acknowledgement. "Good morning, Galmod," you say quietly, entering his stall with calm confidence. Horses respond to body language as much as words, and moving with assurance helps them feel at ease. Time to make you handsome for the patrol. You begin with the curry comb, a rubber tool with soft teeth designed to loosen dirt and bring up the natural oils in a horse's coat. You start at Galmod's neck, just behind his ears, and work in firm circles, moving gradually down his body. The circular motion loosens the dirt and dried sweat that's accumulated since his last grooming, and you can see small clouds of dust rising from his dark coat. The curry comb work is systematic: neck, shoulders, back, sides, hindquarters. You work on both sides of the horse, and Galmod stands patiently, occasionally shifting his weight, but otherwise cooperating fully. He's been groomed thousands of times in his life. This is routine for him, perhaps even pleasant with the right groomer. After the curry comb comes the stiff, bristled body brush, which sweeps away the dirt and dust that the curry comb loosened. You brush in long, smooth strokes that follow the direction of the hair, and with each stroke, Galmod's coat becomes cleaner and begins to develop a healthy shine. The brush makes a soft swishing sound as it passes over his body, a rhythmic accompaniment to the work. You pay special attention to areas where tack will rest: the back where the saddle sits, the area behind the front legs where the girth buckles. These areas must be absolutely clean because any dirt or debris under tack can cause uncomfortable rubbing that might develop into sores during a long ride. The softer face brush comes next, and you move to Galmod's head, speaking quietly to him as you work around this sensitive area. "Easy now, just cleaning up your handsome face." The brush moves gently over his forehead, around his eyes, down his nose. Horses' faces have thin skin over bone, and gentle handling is essential. Galmod's ears flick as you brush near them, an automatic response, but he doesn't pull away. You brush around the ears, but not inside them. That's too intrusive for most horses. His forelock gets attention too, that tuft of mane that falls between his ears and down his forehead. You brush it carefully, removing any tangles. Now for the legs, an area that requires care because horses can be sensitive about their lower legs being handled, and an unexpected kick can injure a careless groom. You run your hand down Galmod's front left leg first, from shoulder to hoof, a motion that signals your intention to work on this leg. He responds by shifting his weight slightly, making it easier for you to lift the hoof. Hoof, you say quietly, a verbal cue that accompanies your hand pressure on the back of his leg just above the hoof. Galmod lifts his foot obligingly, and you catch it, holding it between your knees as you work with the hoof pick. The hoof pick is a metal tool with a pointed end, and you use it to carefully clean out the sole of Galmod's hoof, removing packed dirt, small stones, and any debris that's accumulated. The cleaned material falls to the stall floor to be swept up later. You work methodically around the frog, the V-shaped structure in the centre of the hoof, being careful not to damage this sensitive area. You also check the hoof wall and the horseshoe, looking for any signs of problems. Loose nails, cracked hoof walls, signs of thrush, an infection that smells distinctly foul. Galmod's hooves are in good condition, the shoes properly fitted and secure. You set down the first hoof and move to the second front leg, then to the back legs. Picking up back hooves requires extra care. You must position yourself to the side, not directly behind the horse, to avoid the danger zone if the horse should kick. All 4 hooves cleaned and inspected, you move on to mane and tail care. Galmod's mane is reasonably tidy, but it still needs combing to remove any tangles and to make it lie properly on his neck. You start at the bottom of a section of mane, working out small tangles with your fingers before using the comb, then gradually work upward. Yanking a comb through a tangled mane hurts the horse and can damage the hair, so patience is essential. The tail requires similar careful attention. You stand to the side, never directly behind, even with a well-mannered horse like Galmod, and work through the tail hair section by section. Some stable hands like to dampen tails with water before combing, but you prefer to work dry unless there's a serious tangle. The tail is particularly important for a patrol horse. Horses use their tails to swat at biting flies, so a healthy, full tail isn't just about appearance, it's about comfort during long rides. With Galmod thoroughly groomed, you take a clean cloth and give him a final polish, wiping over his entire body in smooth strokes that remove any last bit of dust and bring up the maximum shine in his coat. The result is impressive. He looks like the high-quality cavalry mount he is, coat gleaming, hooves clean, mane and tail tidy. There you are, handsome, you tell him, stepping back to admire your work. Galmod turns his head to look at you with one large, intelligent eye, and you fancy that he knows he looks good. But one horse groomed doesn't complete the task. The patrol will need several mounts, and you're only beginning. You gather your supplies and move to the next stall, where a mare named Stormwing waits with patient eyes. The grooming continues, horse after horse, each one receiving the same thorough attention. Your arms grow tired from the repeated brushing strokes. Your back aches from bending to pick hooves, but the work is satisfying in its own way. Each groomed horse is a small work of art, a transformation from dusty and rough to polished and proud. Stormwing is groomed, then Quickfoot, a young gelding with a tendency to fidget during grooming, requiring extra patience. Then Sunrunner, an older mare who's been on countless patrols and stands like a statue during the entire process, making your work easy. By the time you've finished grooming the 5 horses designated for the patrol, several more hours have passed. The sun is approaching its highest point. Midday is nearly here, and the patrol will be assembling soon. But the horses are ready, gleaming and healthy, prepared to serve their riders well. Now comes the next task, preparing their tack. The tack room is where equipment is stored, but it's also where you do the meticulous work of preparing saddles, bridles, and other gear for use. Each piece of tack assigned to a patrol horse must be checked, cleaned if necessary, and tested to ensure it's in perfect working order. A broken girth strap or a cracked bit could endanger both horse and rider, so this work is not performed casually. You begin by identifying which saddles and bridles correspond to each patrol horse. The tack room has a system. Saddles are labelled with the names of the horses they fit, because saddle fit is crucial. A poorly fitting saddle can cause pressure sores and back problems. Each horse in the royal stables has a saddle specifically fitted to their conformation. Galmod's saddle is a fine piece of work, crafted by one of Edorus's master saddle makers. It's made from well-tanned leather, with a wooden frame, called the tree, that's shaped to distribute weight properly across the horse's back. The saddle has seen considerable use. Its leather is darkened with age and oil, shaped by years of riders, but it's been maintained carefully and remains in excellent condition. You lift the saddle from its stand and carry it to the cleaning bench, a long wooden table with good light from a nearby window. The first step is inspection. You run your hands over every part of the saddle, feeling for problems that might not be immediately visible. The leather should be supple but firm, not dried out or cracking. The stitching should be intact everywhere. The metal fittings should be secure and uncorroded. Galmod's saddle passes inspection, but it could use a light cleaning and oiling to maintain it properly. You fetch the tack cleaning supplies, a bucket of warm water, saddle soap, clean rags, and neat's foot oil for conditioning the leather. The saddle soap is a specialised cleaner that removes dirt and sweat without damaging leather. You dampen a rag in the warm water, wring it out, and then work some saddle soap into the rag until it lathers slightly. Then you begin wiping down the saddle, cleaning every surface, the seat, the skirts, the flaps, underneath where it contacts the horse, all the leather surfaces. The cleaning reveals how dirty the saddle actually was. Despite looking reasonably clean at first glance, the rag picks up surprising amounts of dirt, old sweat, and general grime. You work methodically, wringing out the rag frequently and applying fresh soap as needed. The underside of the saddle requires particular attention. This is where sweat accumulates most heavily. Once the saddle is clean, you let it dry for a few minutes while you tend to other components. The girth, the strap that holds the saddle on the horse, needs checking. It's made from leather and fabric, reinforced at stress points, and it must be absolutely secure. You examine every inch of it, looking for fraying, weak spots, or damage. The buckles must work smoothly. The girth is fine, so you set it aside. The stirrup leathers, the straps that hold the stirrups, where the rider's feet go, receive the same scrutiny. These take enormous stress during riding, especially if a rider needs to stand in the stirrups or mount and dismount repeatedly. The leather must be thick and strong. The buckles must be secure. Galmod's stirrup leathers are in good condition. With the saddle dry from cleaning, you apply neat's foot oil to condition the leather. The oil prevents the leather from drying out and cracking, keeps it supple, and extends the life of the equipment significantly. You apply it sparingly with a clean cloth, rubbing it into the leather in small circles, letting it absorb. Too much oil makes leather soggy and weak. Too little, and it dries out. You've learned the right amount through practice. The saddle maintenance complete, you set it back on its stand to let the oil finish absorbing and turn your attention to Galmod's bridle. Bridles are more complex than saddles. Multiple pieces of leather, metal bits, buckles, all of which must work together precisely to give the rider control while not causing the horse discomfort. You lay the bridle out on the cleaning bench, separating all the parts so you can inspect each one individually. The headstall, the leather that goes over the horse's head, the brow band, the piece that goes across the forehead, the nose band, the cheek pieces, the reins, and most importantly, the bit, the metal piece that goes in the horse's mouth. Each piece of leather gets the same cleaning treatment as the saddle, and you check every buckle hole, every stitch, every point where stress concentrates. Bridles break less often than saddles, but when they do break, it's usually at the worst possible moment, and the consequences can be severe. The bit requires special attention. It's made from metal, usually iron or steel, and it must be smooth and comfortable in the horse's mouth. You check for rough spots, burrs, or damage that could injure sensitive mouth tissues. You also clean it thoroughly with a damp cloth, removing any build-up of dried saliva or feed particles. Galmod's bit is in perfect condition, smooth and clean. You reassemble the bridle, working from memory of how all the pieces fit together, threading leather through buckles, adjusting lengths to the proper settings for Galmod's head. A properly adjusted bridle sits comfortably without being too loose or too tight in any area. The tack preparation continues for each of the 5 patrol horses, saddle after saddle, bridle after bridle, each one cleaned, inspected, conditioned, and prepared for use. It's detailed work that requires focus and care, but it's also somewhat meditative. Your hands know what to do, and you can let your mind drift slightly while maintaining the attention necessary for quality work. By the time you finish preparing all 5 sets of tack, it's nearly midday. You can hear activity in the stable yard outside, voices calling, the sound of boots on packed earth, the jingle of mail and weapons. The patrol must be assembling. Right on schedule, the horsemaster, Yeomund, enters the tack room with a slight nod of approval. The riders are ready. Bring out the horses. Yes, master, you reply, and begin the process of actually tacking up the horses for their riders. Tacking up a horse is a skill that seems simple, but contains numerous small details that distinguish adequate work from excellent work. You begin with Galmod, as he'll be the marshal's mount and should be ready first. First comes the saddle pad, a thick blanket that goes under the saddle to provide cushioning and prevent the saddle from rubbing directly on the horse's back. You fold the pad carefully and place it on Galmod's back, positioning it properly, far enough forward that the front edge is several inches ahead of where the saddle will sit, then sliding it backward into position. This backward sliding motion ensures the horse's coat lies flat under the pad, rather than being rubbed the wrong direction. The saddle itself is heavy, and you lift it with both hands, approaching Galmod from his left side. Horses are trained to be handled from the left, its tradition dating back centuries. You swing the saddle up and over, settling it onto the pad with care not to drop it or let it land too heavily. The saddle must sit in exactly the right position, clear of the shoulder blades, so it doesn't interfere with movement, but not too far back, where it would put pressure on the kidneys. You adjust the saddle minutely, making sure it's centered and properly positioned. Then you move to Galmod's right side to let down the girth that's been draped over the saddle, before returning to the left side to reach under his belly and grasp the girth, pulling it up to buckle it. Girthing requires care. Too loose, and the saddle might slip during riding, potentially causing a fall. Too tight, and the horse is uncomfortable, can't breathe properly, and might develop girth sores. You buckle the girth snugly, but not tightly, allowing space for several fingers between the girth and Galmod's body. Later, right before mounting, a rider will check the girth and might tighten it further after the horse has had time to adjust to wearing the saddle. Next comes the bridle, which you've already cleaned and prepared. You approach Galmod's head, speaking quietly to alert him to what's coming. Bridle time, good horse. You slip off the halter he's been wearing in his stall and quickly replace it with the bridle before he has time to decide he might want to wander away. Bridling requires coordination and gentleness. You stand at Galmod's left side, draping the reins over his neck, so you'll have some control if needed. Then you hold the bridle up with your right hand, using your left to guide the bit toward Galmod's mouth. Most well-trained horses will open their mouth when the bit touches their lips, and Galmod is no exception. The bit slides in smoothly, and you quickly draw the bridle up over his ears, being careful not to bend his ears or pull any hair. The bridle must be adjusted, the brow band sitting comfortably on the forehead, the noseband fastened with proper tension, the throat latch buckled loosely enough that Galmod can flex his jaw and neck comfortably. You check each adjustment point, making small changes until everything is perfect. Galmod is now fully tacked and ready for his rider. You lead him out of his stall and into the stable yard, where the patrol is assembling. The marshal stands in conversation with several other riders, all of them wearing mail shirts, helms at their sides, spears and shields ready. "Galmod is ready, sir," you say, offering the reins to the marshal. He nods, checking the girth with a practiced hand, then swinging into the saddle with easy competence. Galmod stands steady, untroubled by the weight and the rider's equipment. The marshal settles himself, adjusts the stirrup length slightly, and nods his satisfaction. You return to the stable and repeat the process with the other 4 horses. Stormwing is next, then Quickfoot, then Sunrunner, then the last horse, a powerful gelding named Windchaser. Each horse is saddled, bridled, and led out to their rider. The stable yard is busy now with the activity of departure. Riders are checking their equipment, adjusting their weapons, making final preparations. The horses stand quietly, experienced enough not to be bothered by the activity around them. The marshal raises his hand, a signal, and the riders mount in near unison. The horses respond to their familiar riders, and soon 5 mounted warriors are formed up in a rough column, ready to depart. "Ride well," Yeoman says formally, his hand raised in salute. The marshal returns the salute, then gives the command to move out. The patrol walks their horses through the stable yard, out through the gates, and down the hill toward Edorus's main gates. You watch them go, the sound of hoofbeats gradually fading, and feel a quiet pride in knowing that you helped prepare both horses and equipment for their service. But there's no time for extended contemplation. The now empty stalls need quick cleaning. The halters need to be hung back in their proper places, and the afternoon's work schedule continues. The life of a stable doesn't pause just because some of the horses have temporarily left. With the patrol departed, the stable settles into the quieter rhythm of afternoon work. You return to the tack room to properly clean and store the halters you removed from the patrol horses, hanging each one on its designated peg, and you sweep up the small debris that accumulated during the morning's activities. The horsemaster, Aomund, assigns the afternoon's tasks. The pasture horses need checking. Take Hafok with you and give him instruction on inspecting horses at liberty. After that, there's fence repair needed on the training paddock's south side. "Yes, master," you reply. "Working with young Hafok will be a change of pace from solitary labour, and teaching someone reinforces your own knowledge." You find Hafok mucking out the stalls that the patrol horses vacated. He's working diligently, but without much efficiency. He hasn't yet developed the economical movements that come with experience. You remember being that green, and you feel a momentary sympathy. "Hafok, leave that for now. We're to check the pasture horses." His face brightens immediately. Any job that gets a stable hand outdoors and away from mucking is welcome. He sets aside his pitchfork with obvious relief and follows you out of the stable. The pastures used by the royal stables lie to the south of Edorus, accessed by a well-worn path that winds down the hillside. It's a pleasant walk, perhaps 15 minutes, at an easy pace, and the day is beautiful. Sun warm, but not hot. A light breeze carrying the smell of grass and wildflowers. "What are we looking for?" Hafok asks as you walk. He's eager to learn, which is good. Enthusiasm can compensate for inexperience if guided properly. "We're checking each horse for any signs of injury or illness," you explain. "When horses are out at pasture, they can get into trouble, kick each other during play, step in a hole, develop scrapes or cuts from fencing. We need to catch problems early before they become serious." "How often do we check them?" "Twice daily, ideally, morning and afternoon. Master Omond or Aldrich usually does the morning check, and we're doing the afternoon." The pastures come into view as you crest a small rise. There are several different paddocks, each separated by post and rail fencing, and horses dot the green grass like scattered stones. The breeding mares occupy one pasture, young horses another, and a few retired veterans have a smaller paddock to themselves. You head to the breeding mares first, where Aldrich's pregnant mare is grazing along with several others. The horses lift their heads as you approach, ears forward, curious but not alarmed. They know stable hands mean attention and sometimes treats. Count them first, you tell Hafok. Make sure they're all present. He counts carefully, pointing at each horse. 7, he announces. Correct. There should be 7 in this pasture. If there weren't 7, we'd need to search for the missing horse, immediately. You open the gate and enter the pasture, Hafok following. The horses watch but don't move away. They're accustomed to human presence. You walk among them, looking each one over carefully. The pregnant mare is obviously your main concern. She's a beautiful bay with a slightly swollen belly, and she's grazing calmly. You approach her slowly, speaking in soothing tones, and run your hands over her body, checking for any signs of distress. Her breathing is normal, her eyes are bright, her coat is in good condition. You feel her belly gently, the foal is moving, which is an excellent sign. She looks good, you tell Hafok. See how calm she is? No signs of pain or discomfort. But we'll check her again tonight, and probably several times tomorrow. Foaling can start quickly. You move to the next mare, examining her with the same thoroughness. Check the eyes, should be clear and bright. Check the legs. Run your hands down each leg, feeling for heat or swelling that might indicate injury. Check the hooves. Even though they're not shod, hooves still need attention. Look at overall body condition. Is the horse maintaining healthy weight? Each mare receives this thorough examination, and you explain what you're doing to Hafok, turning the inspection into a lesson. He watches carefully, asking occasional questions that show he's thinking about what he's seeing. All 7 mares are in good health. You lead Hafok to the next pasture, where the young horses are kept. These are 2- and 3-year-olds, mostly, horses that have been weaned from their mothers, but aren't yet ready for serious training. They're energetic and playful, and as you enter their pasture, 2 of them trot over to investigate, sniffing at your clothes and pockets hopefully. Looking for treats, you say with a smile, rubbing one youngster's face. Sorry, nothing today. Young horses require careful watching because they play roughly and can injure each other or themselves. You're particularly alert for bite marks, kick injuries, or signs of lameness as you examine each animal. There are 9 young horses in this pasture, and checking them all takes considerable time because they're less cooperative than the mature mares, moving away or trying to play when you're attempting to be serious. That one has a small cut on his hind leg, Hafok observes, pointing at a grey colt. You look where he's indicating and see he's right. There's a small cut, perhaps 2 inches long, on the colt's left hind leg, just above the hock. You examine it carefully. It's not deep, doesn't appear infected, and is already starting to scab over. Probably happened yesterday or the day before. Good eye, you tell Hafok. That will need cleaning and checking for a few days to make sure it doesn't get infected, but it's not serious. You make a mental note to report it to Yeomund. The cut will likely heal on its own, but it should be monitored. The inspection of the pasture horses takes more than an hour, but when you're finished, you're confident that all the animals are healthy and thriving. The work is less dramatic than some stable duties, but it's arguably more important. Catching problems early can prevent serious complications later. On the walk back to the main stable, Hafok asks, "How long did it take you to learn all this, knowing what to look for?" You consider the question. "I'm still learning, but the basics. Maybe a year before I felt confident inspecting horses without supervision. Years before I felt like I really knew what I was doing. And there's always more to learn." Do you like the work? It's an earnest question from a boy still deciding if this will be his life's path. I do, you answer honestly. It's hard sometimes and unglamorous often, and the pay isn't what a soldier or craftsman might make. But horses are honest, and the work matters. There's satisfaction in caring for something important. Hafok nods, processing this. You remember having similar thoughts at his age, weighing whether stable work was just a necessary job or something more. You decided it was something more, and you haven't regretted that decision. Back at the stable, you report your findings to Yeomund, all horses healthy, except for the one minor cut on the grey colt. He nods, makes a note in his record book, and moves on to his next task. The stable operates smoothly because everyone does their part reliably. Now for the afternoon's next task, fence repair. The training paddock is a circular space, about 50 feet in diameter, enclosed by wooden post and rail fencing. It's where horses are exercised, trained and evaluated, and the fencing takes constant abuse from horses leaning on it, kicking it, or simply the weathering effects of time and the elements. Regular maintenance is essential to keep the paddock safe and functional. You gather the necessary tools from the maintenance shed: a hammer, nails, a saw, replacement wooden rails stored for this purpose, and a crowbar for removing damaged sections. The tools are old but well maintained, and you carry them to the paddock in a canvas bag slung over your shoulder. The south side of the paddock has several rails that are showing serious wear, cracks in the wood, sections where nails have worked loose, one rail that's actually broken completely and needs replacement. You assess the damage, planning your approach to the repairs. Fence repair is straightforward but requires attention to detail. A poorly repaired fence is worse than no fence at all because it creates a false sense of security. If a horse leans on a weak section, the fence could give way, potentially injuring the animal. You start with the broken rail, using the crowbar to pry it away from the posts. The old nails squeal in protest as they're pulled free, but they come out eventually. The damaged rail is tossed aside. It will go to the firewood pile, unusable for structural purposes anymore, but fine for burning. The replacement rail is a length of oak, cut to size and weathered slightly to match the existing fence. You lift it into position, lining it up with the adjacent rails, and begin nailing it to the posts. The hammer rings out with steady rhythm. Pound, 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 driving each nail home securely. You use 4 nails per end, overkill perhaps, but fence repairs should err on the side of too strong rather than too weak. The physical work of hammering is satisfying in its own way. Each blow moves the nail further into the wood, and you can feel when a nail is set properly versus when it's hitting at a slight angle or encountering a knot. You adjust your aim, change your angle, work the nail in properly. The replaced rail complete, you move to the sections that are cracked but not yet broken. These can be reinforced by adding additional support. You nail a shorter piece of wood across the crack, essentially creating a splint that prevents the crack from spreading. It's not as pretty as a full replacement, but it's effective and extends the life of the rail considerably. Some of the existing nails have worked loose over time, and you hammer these back in, restoring the firmness of the connection between rails and posts. It's tedious work, going around the entire paddock perimeter checking each joint, but thoroughness prevents future problems. As you work, your mind wanders to broader thoughts. Fence repair is unglamorous work, the kind that goes unnoticed when done well. Nobody praises a fence that doesn't break, but let a fence fail, and a valuable horse escape or get injured, and suddenly everyone notices. There's a lesson in that about most maintenance work. Its success is invisible, its failure obvious. The sun is well past its high point now, beginning the long afternoon descent toward evening. The shadows are growing longer, the light is taking on the slightly golden quality that characterises late afternoon. You've been working for perhaps 2 hours and the fence repairs are nearly complete. One final task, treating the wood with preservative oil. The wood oil helps protect the fence from weather damage, prevents rot, and extends the life of the repairs. You apply it with a rag, wiping it onto every surface of the new wood and the surrounding areas. The oil smells sharp and slightly piney, and it darkens the wood where it soaks in. The fence repair complete, you gather your tools and return them to the maintenance shed, hanging each item in its proper place. Organisation matters. The next person who needs these tools should be able to find them immediately. As you're securing the shed door, you hear a commotion from the direction of the south pastures. Raised voices, the sound of running feet. Your heart jumps slightly. Is something wrong with one of the horses? You turn and see Aldrich running up the path, his face flushed with exertion. and excitement. The mare, she's foaling, it's happening now. The afternoon's peaceful routine suddenly transforms into something more urgent. You immediately start moving toward the pastures, falling in beside Aldrich as he runs back the way he came. Foaling is always significant, always requires careful attention, and you're needed. By the time you reach the breeding mare's pasture, the situation is already well underway. The mare, her name is Leodis, is lying on her side in the grass, her sides heaving with the effort of labour. The other mares have moved to the far side of the pasture, instinctively giving the labouring mother space. Eomund is already there, kneeling near Leodis's head, speaking to her in calm, soothing tones. He looks up as you and Aldrich arrive. Get the foaling kit from the stable quickly, and bring clean water, lots of it. I'll get the kit, Aldrich says immediately, turning to run back. Water, you confirm, and you're already moving, heading back up the path at a run. The foaling kit is kept in the tack room, always prepared and ready. A leather bag containing everything that might be needed during a difficult birth. Clean towels, rope for pulling if necessary, a bottle of iodine for treating the foal's umbilical stump, lubricant, and various other supplies. You know Aldrich will grab it. Your task is water. You enter the stable and go directly to the pump, working the handle with urgent speed. Clear water gushes out, and you fill 2 buckets to the brim. The buckets are heavy, and you carry them carefully but quickly, water sloshing with each step as you hurry back down the path to the pasture. When you return, Aldrich is already there with the foaling kit spread out on the grass nearby. Eomund is examining Leodis carefully, his experienced hands feeling her belly, checking the progress of the birth. How is she, you ask, setting down the water buckets. She's doing well, Eomund says, and there's relief in his voice. It's progressing normally. We may not need to intervene at all. She seems to know what she's doing. Mare births can be dangerous. Things can go wrong quickly, and without proper help, both mare and foal can be lost. But experienced brood mares like Leodis often handle the entire process themselves, their bodies knowing exactly what to do through the ancient wisdom of countless generations. You kneel in the grass at a respectful distance, ready to help if needed, but not interfering with the natural process. Aldrich does the same. The 3 of you form a quiet audience to one of nature's fundamental miracles. Leodis is breathing heavily, her sides moving with each breath, but she doesn't seem to be in distress. She's focused entirely on the task her body is performing, ears back not in anger, but in concentration. There, Eomund says quietly, pointing. You can see the sac. You look and see what he means. The silvery white amniotic sac is beginning to emerge. This is a good sign. It means the foal is positioned correctly, coming out front feet first with the head lying on top of the legs. Malpresented births, where the foal is backwards or sideways, require immediate intervention, but this appears to be textbook normal. The birth progresses with surprising speed once it truly begins. The amniotic sac emerges further, and within it you can see the shape of tiny hoofs. Then the nose, the head, still enclosed in the protective sac. Leodis pushes with visible effort, and more of the foal emerges with each contraction. Come on, girl, Eomund murmurs encouragingly. You're doing perfectly. And she is. Within minutes the foal slithers out onto the grass in a rush of fluid, still enclosed in the sac. For a moment, nothing happens, and you feel a spike of concern, but then Leodis lifts her head and turns, already intent on her newborn. Eomund moves quickly, tearing open the amniotic sac around the foal's nose and clearing the fluid from its airways. The foal gasps, coughs, and then takes its first breath. The sound is small, but profoundly important. Life beginning, lungs filling with air. The foal is dark, probably will be bay like its mother when its coat dries, and it's already moving, legs struggling in the instinctive effort to stand that drives newborn horses. It won't succeed for a while yet. Foals typically take 30 minutes to an hour before they can stand successfully. But the drive is there from the first moment. Leodis is licking her foal vigorously, cleaning it, bonding with it, the ancient maternal instincts operating flawlessly. She makes low nickering sounds, and the foal responds with small squeaking noises. The two are communicating, mother and baby, establishing the relationship that will define the foal's early life. It's a colt, Aldrich observes, having gotten a glimpse during the cleaning. A fine one too, Yeoman agrees. Good size, active, breathing well. Leodis has done excellent work. You fetch the iodine from the foaling kit, and once the umbilical cord has broken naturally, which happens when the foal first struggles to move, Yeoman treats the stump with iodine to prevent infection. The colt barely notices, too focused on figuring out how his legs work. The afterbirth emerges perhaps 20 minutes after the foal, and Yeoman examines it carefully to ensure it's complete. Retained afterbirth can cause serious infection in the mare. All appears well. The afterbirth is gathered up to be disposed of properly later. Now comes the waiting, watching to ensure the foal successfully stands, and nurses within the first few hours. The colostrum, the mare's first milk, is crucial for providing the antibodies the foal needs to fight off disease. If the foal doesn't nurse, intervention becomes necessary. But this colt seems vigorous. After about 45 minutes of repeated attempts, he manages to get his impossibly long legs underneath himself and stands wobbling dramatically but upright. Leody encourages him with gentle nudges and nickers. The colt takes his first uncertain steps, nearly falling several times, but each attempt makes him stronger and more coordinated. He's searching for the udder, driven by instinct to nurse. With some trial and error, and some helpful positioning from his mother, he finds it, and soon he's nursing enthusiastically. Excellent, Yeoman says with deep satisfaction. All the important signs are good. Leodis and her colt should both do fine. You realise you've been holding tension in your shoulders, and you consciously relax. Birth is always somewhat risky, and you're relieved that this one went smoothly. The three of you watch for another half hour, ensuring the colt continues to nurse successfully and that Leodis shows no signs of complications. The sun is lowering toward the horizon now, painting the pasture in warm golden light. The other mares have cautiously returned to graze nearby, occasionally looking over at the new mother and baby with mild curiosity. He'll need a name, Aldrich says. The king will name him, Omond replies. This colt is from royal breeding stock. His lineage goes back to Felaroff himself. He'll be registered in the great book with a proper name. The thought is sobering in a way. This small, wobbly creature, currently figuring out how to walk, will someday be a warhorse, carrying a rider into battle or on patrol, but that's years in the future. For now, he's simply a newborn, and your job is to ensure he has the chance to grow into whatever destiny awaits him. We should let them be, Yeoman decides. They need quiet time to bond. Aldrich, you'll check on them throughout the night. Yes, master. I'll sleep in the field shelter so I'm nearby if there are any problems. Good. Benny, back to the main stable. Evening feeding will need to be done soon. The walk back to the main stable feels different than the hurried rush to the pasture earlier. There's a quiet satisfaction in your step. You witnessed a birth, helped ensure it went smoothly, and now a new horse has been added to Rohan's legendary herds. It's not the work that songs are sung about, but it's work that matters. The horses in the main stable are ready for their evening meal. They've been patient all afternoon, dozing and picking at their hay, but as the day wanes toward evening, their anticipation of grain grows. Several horses nicker as you enter, greeting you but also clearly communicating their expectation of being fed soon. I know, you say to them generally. Dinner is coming. The evening feeding routine is nearly identical to the morning feeding, though the portions are slightly different for some horses. Those who did heavy work during the day might get extra grain to replenish their energy, while horses who've been resting all day get their standard portion. You return to the feed room, unlock the door, and begin the familiar measuring routine. Scoop after scoop of oats into the bucket, varying the amounts according to each horse's needs. The work is automatic now. Your hands, knowing exactly how much to measure for each animal without needing to think about it. The feeding proceeds systematically, horse by horse down the stable corridor. Each horse receives their portion, and you take a moment at each stall to observe how they eat. All seem normal, good appetites, no signs of distress. As you work, you think about the day's full span. Up before dawn to check and feed the horses, mucking stalls, grooming and preparing tack for the patrol, checking the pasture horses, repairing fences, helping with the foaling, and now evening feeding. It's been a full day, varied in its tasks, satisfying in its completeness. The light is fading outside, the sun having set behind the western hills. The sky's that deep blue that comes after sunset, but before full darkness, and the first stars are becoming visible. Inside the stable, you light the evening lamps, their warm glow creating pools of light in the growing darkness. With all horses fed, you begin the final check of the day, walking the stable one more time, looking into each stall, ensuring all is well before the night. The horses are settling into their evening routines. Some are already lying down to rest, others stand drowsily, heads lowered, half asleep on their feet. The stable is peaceful, filled with the quiet sounds of contentment. You check water levels again, topping up any troughs that have been significantly depleted during the day. You adjust a few stall doors that aren't hanging quite right, mental notes made to repair them properly tomorrow. You sweep the main corridor, gathering up the day's accumulated hay droppings and dust. Eomund makes his final evening inspection, walking the stable with you, checking your work, ensuring everything meets his standards. He nods approval at what he sees. Good day's work. That colt's birth went well thanks to Aldrich's vigilance and your quick response. Get your dinner and rest. Tomorrow will be another full day. Yes, master. Good night. Good night. The common room is warm and inviting when you enter. Someone has lit a small fire in the hearth, not necessary for warmth on this mild evening, but pleasant for the light and comfort it provides. Young Hafok is already there, eating what looks like stew from a bowl. Your own evening meal is simple: more bread, some dried meat, a bit of cheese, and an apple. You've also purchased a small flask of ale from the tavern in Edorus's lower town, a modest luxury you allow yourself once or twice a week. The ale is local, brewed in a traditional style that's been produced in Rohan for generations. You sit across from Hafok and begin eating. The food is plain but adequate, and after a full day of physical labour, everything tastes good. The bread is fresh today, baked this morning, still with a bit of softness in the centre, despite the crisp crust. Long day, Hafok observes. Every day is long, you reply, not unkindly. But good. We had a foal born this afternoon. His eyes widen with interest. I heard something about that. Is it healthy? Very. A strong colt from good bloodlines. He was standing and nursing within an hour of birth. I wish I could have seen it, Hafok says, and there's genuine wistfulness in his voice. You will. Mares foal regularly, and you'll be present for births many times in your years here. Each one is remarkable. The ale is cool and slightly bitter, refreshing after the day's work. You sip it slowly, letting the quiet conversation and the peaceful atmosphere wash over you. The fire crackles softly in the hearth, and through the small window you can see the last light fading from the sky. Do you ever think about doing different work? Hafok asks suddenly. Being a soldier maybe, or a merchant? You consider the question. Sometimes. When I was younger, I thought I might want to be a rider in the King's Guard, carrying a spear and defending Rohan from enemies. But that life requires certain skills and temperament I don't have. I'm better with horses than with weapons. But stable work is so ordinary. Ordinary is underrated, you say, with a slight smile. The kingdom runs on ordinary work. Soldiers need horses, and horses need care. Food needs to be grown, and that requires ordinary farmers. Buildings need maintenance, bread needs baking, clothes need mending. Without all that ordinary work, the extraordinary things would be impossible. Hafok thinks about this, chewing slowly. I never thought of it that way. Most people don't. They see the riders galloping out on patrol and think that's what matters. And it does matter, but it only matters because dozens of people did ordinary work to make it possible. The stable hands who prepared the horses, the smith who made the shoes, the farmers who grew the grain, the weavers who made the saddle blankets, all ordinary work, all essential. It's more words than you usually string together at once, and you feel almost embarrassed at the small speech. But Hafok is nodding, seeming to genuinely consider what you've said. "I think I understand," he says. "It's all connected." Exactly. The meal continues in comfortable silence after that, both of you focused on eating and thinking our own thoughts. The fire burns down to coals, the sky outside the window is fully dark now, and you feel the pleasant tiredness that comes at the end of a well-spent day. After dinner, there's one final task, the night check of the stable, before you can retire to your room and sleep. It's a quick walk through, just ensuring no problems have developed in the evening hours, that all horses are settled and secure for the night. The stable is quiet in a different way than during the day. The sounds are softer, gentle breathing, the rustle of straw as horses adjust position, an occasional sleepy nicker. The lamps burn low, providing just enough light to move safely without tripping. You walk the corridor slowly, looking into each stall. All the horses are either lying, down or standing drowsily. No signs of distress anywhere, no sounds of pain or discomfort. Just the peaceful atmosphere of animals at rest. In Galmod's stall, the big stallion is lying down in the straw, his legs tucked under him, head low. He doesn't even open his eyes as you pause at his door. He knows the sound of your footsteps, knows this is just the routine night check, and he's secure enough in his environment to continue resting undisturbed. Windfoot is standing but clearly half asleep, one hind leg relaxed, head lowered, eyes closed. She flicks an ear towards you when she hears your approach, but doesn't otherwise respond. Starfire is the only one who's still fully awake, munching hay with quiet contentment. She looks at you as you pause at her stall, and you fancy there's a greeting in her expression. "Good night, Starfire," you murmur. The night check complete. You make sure all lamps are properly trimmed and safe. Fire is the eternal danger in any structure housing livestock and hay. You bank the small fire in the common room hearth, making sure no sparks could escape to cause problems. Finally, you climb the stairs to your small room above the tack area. The familiar space welcomes you, the narrow bed with its straw-filled mattress, the simple furniture, the few personal possessions that make this space yours. The window shows stars brilliant in the clear night sky, and a slight breeze carries the cool freshness of night air. You remove your boots and work clothes, hanging everything in its proper place. The wash basin holds fresh water. You filled it earlier before dinner, and you perform quick evening ablutions, washing away the day's accumulation of sweat and dirt. The bed is exactly as comfortable as always, which is to say, not very comfortable by luxury standards, but perfectly adequate. The straw mattress has shaped itself to your body over years of use, and you know exactly how to position yourself to minimize the feel of the wooden slats underneath. As you lie in the darkness, your body tired but your mind still slightly active, you think about the day's events one more time. The morning routine, the patrol departure, the pasture inspection, the fence repairs, the foaling, that small dark colt taking his first uncertain steps in the world. Tomorrow will bring similar tasks, feeding, mucking, grooming, whatever maintenance or special projects Yeoman assigns. There will be small variations, unexpected tasks, perhaps a minor crisis or two, but mostly it will be the familiar routine of stable work, the endless cycle of care for the horses entrusted to your keeping. You should feel bored by the repetition, perhaps, or restless for something more exciting, but you don't. The work satisfies something in you, a need to be useful, to care for living creatures, to maintain standards of excellence in ordinary tasks. The sounds of the stable drift up through your floorboards. A horse snorts, another shifts position with a rustle of straw. These are the sounds that lull you to sleep every night. The audio proof that your charges are well and secure. Your eyes grow heavy. The day's exertions are catching up with you, pulling you toward the sleep your body needs. Tomorrow you'll wake before dawn and do it all again, and somehow that prospect is comforting rather than tedious. The darkness is soft around you, the night air cool and fresh through your window, and somewhere in the stable below, the horses breathe in quiet rhythm. You're part of something larger, the daily operations that keep one of Middle-earth's greatest kingdoms functioning. The ordinary work that makes extraordinary things possible. Your breathing slows and deepens as sleep begins to claim you. The straw mattress cradles your tired body, and your muscles relax one by one, releasing the tension of the day's labour. The sounds from below become distant, dreamlike, a lullaby of horses and hay and the peaceful night. Tomorrow awaits, but tomorrow can wait. For now, there is only rest, earned and needed and welcome. Your work is done, your horses are safe, and the simple satisfaction of that knowledge carries you deeper into sleep. The stable will stand through the night, solid and secure, sheltering the noble horses of Rohan from the darkness. And when dawn comes, you'll wake and begin again, continuing the ancient tradition of those who care for horses, a tradition as old as the alliance between humans and horses themselves. But that's tomorrow. Tonight, now, in this moment, there is only sleep. Deeper rest. You, too, may rest now, dear listener. The stable boy's day is complete, his work well done, and you've walked beside him through every ordinary, essential task. May you carry with you the peace of honest work faithfully performed, the satisfaction of caring for living creatures, the quiet pride of maintaining standards even when no one is watching. Let the rhythm of the stable lull you toward rest, the patient breathing of sleeping horses, the gentle rustle of straw, the solid presence of wooden walls and stone foundations. These sounds are older than kingdoms, older than gold-roofed halls, as ancient as the bond between humans and horses. In a world of great deeds and legendary heroes, someone still must brush the horses, someone must muck the stalls, and measure the oats, and repair the fences. That work is not less important for being ordinary. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Your breathing matches the slow, steady rhythm of sleep. Your body settles deeper into rest, releasing the last tensions, letting go of the day's concerns. The stable stands strong through the night, and so too does your rest grow strong and restorative. May your dreams be as peaceful as a clean stall with fresh bedding, as satisfying as a well-groomed horse gleaming in the sunlight, as reliable as the morning routine that begins each new day. May you rest deeply and wake refreshed, ready for whatever ordinary work your own life requires. The horses of Rohan sleep now in their stalls, safe and warm, well fed and carefully tended. And you sleep too, listener, carried into dreams by the knowledge that somewhere, in every stable, in every land, someone is doing this essential work, caring for creatures who cannot speak, but who trust completely in human hands. Sleep then, and let the stable's peace enfold you. Let the smell of hay and horses, leather and honest sweat create a cradle for your rest. Let the ordinary miracle of good work well done be your bridge into dreams. The day's journey is complete. The stable door is latched. The lanterns are dimmed. The horses breathe quietly in their contentment. And you, dear listener, may release yourself into the deep rest that follows a day well lived, work well done, creatures well tended. Good night, stable hand. Good night, keeper of horses. Good night, faithful servant of ordinary work that makes the world turn. May your sleep be as deep as a winter's snow, as peaceful as a spring meadow, as refreshing as a cool wind across the Riddermark. The story is told, the work is finished, the day has ended in satisfaction and completion. Now there is only sleep, deep and dreamless and restful, carrying you through the night toward whatever tomorrow brings. Rest well, friend. Rest well. The The stable watches over your dreams, and the horses of Rohan stand guard through the peaceful night. Good night.